If I may, I want to clear up some misunderstanding in this world. It is about the origins of the Freemasons. You would think the word itself, free, Mason, would give it away. I mean, you would think that alone would suggest what it means. Because that's what it is, free Masons. Masons, who up till recently, and still, hold the secrets of geometry and the secrets of where we are in the world, geographically speaking, and can locate the building according to all of those measurements they can take from the stars or whatever they can take, or whatever it is they want to, where they want to locate a building. That knowledge is ancient knowledge. Obviously, it goes right back to when they built the pyramids. And it's just being handed down. When they stopped building, maybe they stopped building their pyramids, but it didn't stop the masons, the skill that the masons had to be passed down. And besides, at the same time as they were building the pyramids, they were building other buildings in other parts of the world out of stone. So you can see how the people had these skills of setting out and organising, and it takes a lot of organisation and logistics. It's not just about building the building, it's understanding the total organisation, from using them, sourcing and using the material, to costing the building, to finding the labour, organising labour, training the labour, and doing the accounts, and everything you can think of, and working out the engineering, and everything you can think of, doing the survey and everything, is encompassed in masonry. Excuse me. Because I keep seeing the things on Ancient Architects and Megalomania and whatever it's called, and all these wonderful people. I enjoy watching and listening to them, which I do on a very regular basis. But the mystery, they keep saying, oh, the mystery of Masonry, the mystery of Masonry. We don't know where it came from. Even the Masons don't know where it came from. Now, maybe the Masons who don't know where it came from are not actually Masons. Now, maybe the Freemasons, that is, who are in the lodges, don't know where Freemasonry came from. But as a Mason, I've worked with real Freemasons from the Scottish lodges. Well, actually, the guys are actual geniuses. Brilliant engineers. These people could do actually anything, and they had all of this ability to plan and draw plans and work everything out. And they passed some of that on to me, not as much as I would have liked, but nonetheless enough to that I can set out a pyramid or something like that with not too much fuss. It's actually just, I say, it's quite a simple procedure. You just set a pyramid out. If you're not worried about your direction, or you want the direction north, that's all you really need to know where north is to set a whole pyramid out. But I do digress. It's not actually a secret if you've been setting out buildings. All you need to know is one place and you can set everything out from that. But the thing is, obviously, whenever these lodges came back, probably was, I'd suggest they're in Rome, because Rome had obviously a mass of masonry. We got right into masonry. The Greeks did temples, and then they built ordinary sort of houses. But Romans got right into, let's show the world what we can do. And the Romans still, you go to Rome now, and that you can see the fabulous amount of architecture, all organised by the masons of Rome, whoever they were. Whoever they were, they could be anywhere. I don't know if they were Romans, but those Romans themselves, the senators and the Caesars and whoever's organised buildings, need to keep these masons. And because the masons have the knowledge, you can't torture them. You can't say, well, if you don't do this, we're going to kill you. If you kill your masons, well, you've got no buildings. It's as simple as that. None that'll stay up for very long anyway. And why they formed lodges? They formed lodges a long, long time ago, because there's something that as a mason that you must have: integrity and principle. Regardless, there's a lot of silliness really about people like George Bush and all that being a Mason. I don't know what that means, because he is not fit to be a Mason as far as I know, and the Masons that I've known. Because unless you had these massive, why they had to have these lodges and then initiate people into this whatever the ceremonies, is because you have to have people you can absolutely totally trust to build up a big arch or to build something and do the accounts properly and everything like that. You have to be able to absolutely trust these people, because you can't build a great big arch or a great big dome in Rome and without massive integrity. You can't make them. You can. People did occasionally make mistakes in church steeples in England, for instance, when they didn't understand the subsidence of pressure caused by all those stones on those big, large cathedrals, will put pressure right directly down into the earth and cause some of the steeples later on to collapse or become loose. But I digress. But we can continue and talk about this and on all the different aspects of masonry and what happens with pressures and all that, and continue and show you what sort of knowledge you get from doing masonry, because you understand physics. You learn to understand. It's a very simple way of learning to understand physics from a practical sense. And if you worked in building big arches and happens in big furnaces and stuff like that, you really get to feel physics itself. You get to feel physics. You get to feel for geometry. You get a feel in the end for setting out and perceiving and seeing things. So when the Masons, I suspect, truly suspect, you had to have a masonry lodge in Rome. It has to be the origins of it, even though the architects in Egypt, they had sacred geometry there for sure. But the Egyptian archaeology is more like a Lego set. Most of it's like a Lego set. You have to look at it and say, yes, it's brilliant in its concept, but it's put together like Lego sets. And that's what it is. The big pyramids basically put together like a Lego set. So the massive technology in doing it and setting it out, but the actual, once you put all your blocks perfectly the size and all that, they assemble themselves really with some supervision. But when they do the big masonry jobs in Rome, when they start getting into fancy ecclesiastical and all that fancy, really fancy architecture, then that's a different kettle of fish. It's much more complex in its organisation, in its format, in its vision, in its artwork, and all of that. All of that is encompassed in it. Is encompassed in the ability of masons. They'll be able to put up what the architects can draw. Because the masons have to be able to put it in so it doesn't collapse. And I'll go back to the fact that's why they had lodges, and I suspect it goes back to Roman times. I may be wrong on that, but I can't see how it goes back any further than that, because of what I know about the history of construction archaeology, architecture itself. Basically, it blossoms in Rome with the great architecture of the ancient past in Egypt and Mayans. That's a different concept of architecture altogether. It's a format. But when you get to Rome, you've got Roman style. It's still sort of a format, but it's far more freer in its style. It starts to be individualized depending on the taste and that of the times. And we've still got basically Roman architecture right down to now, because those basic standards with Greek architecture, they are sort of set in stone, if you like, because of the visual effects they have, or all architects will sort of adhere to gain some sort of artistic balance in the finished building. But I'm saying the originals of masonry has to be in Rome, because one, that's where it all really it flourished and went off and started in that beyond the temples, where you got the big columns and the things like the plinths over the top and all of that. And all of that was just a standard. And then when you got to Rome, they did use columns, but then they got into actually making architectural buildings. And from that, masonry started in Rome. It has to. A lodge started. Invite people in that you really have to be able to trust them. You have to be able to trust their word. They have to be able to give their word, and it has to be totally trusted. They have to swear to what they build is not going to fall down, and you can't sort of be dishonest about this. So that the integrity in it, and what the skills and knowledge they have, and the fact that they have to pass this knowledge on, it takes a long time to learn all these skills, and you can't kill off your masons. You have to protect those, and they're more protected than priests. Priests may have been masons as well, by the way, so we might combine the two. Like the Knights Templars were also masons. They were definitely masons because they built all these huge castles. So maybe the Knights Templars were masons, part of a Masonic lodge originally before that, and that makes us an interesting thought as well. You've got to give them the knowledge to go and do what they do, and they also the power and strength in their arms and arms just by lifting all those stones for a start, give them a dominance in their battle. That's another thing to consider in that aspect of the Knights Templar. But then, just reiterating, you can't just invite anyone to be a mason, and even to be a bricklayer. Then these days, the idea you can get someone who's not been to school and all that and turn them into a great bricklayer, it's highly difficult because if they haven't paid attention in class, how are you going to pass on the concepts of setting out and surveying and concentrating and achieving a visibly beautiful job in the end? It's more to it than what it means that most people understand. But when you get in the complex nature of masonry itself, where you're shaping and cutting stones and working it all out from a plan, and then you have to work out preliminary settings out and all your organisation and logistics before you assemble a building. Well, there's an awful lot in that. So that's why you got to see today in modern buildings, you've still got the similar triptych architecture, because that knowledge. Someone's saying, "Look, we've been around forever. We're still here." They you don't know them personally because they're very wealthy people who live in fancy places, and no doubt with that much power, money, and skill handed down through the ages, they're rather free, so they can be called free masons. So anyone out there who's thinking in this day and age, when you've got robots and all that sort of stuff taking the world over, AI, you want a good job, become a mason, become a bricklayer. It's a good job, very satisfying mentally and physically and everything. It's a very satisfying way to be employed. And no one is really your boss. No one. You are your own man when you are a mason. Therefore, you feel intrinsically free. You're not a slave. Not as much anyway to anyone working in an office or big factory or big organisation. You can't be. Basically, you're free. And that's one of the benefits. You might not always be rich. You might not make a lot of money. But you are free throughout your working life if you know what you're doing and create your own little business. Anyway, my name's Graham. I was a refractory mason. That is, I worked on furnaces with the same concept of working on any sort of architecture what involves stones, because the concept has been handed down right through from Egypt to today. So there you are. I'm suggesting masonry and lodges started in Rome. It's just logical. It's just common sense and logical. There are words on this in the Encyclopedia Britannica which suggest it started in the 13th, 14th century, but I'm suggesting it started in Rome. It has to have done. It just makes sense.